Hello and a warm welcome to News Across Nigeria. I'm Melinda Akinlami. On the program today, Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, begins indefinite strike, wants implementation of outstanding agreements signed with the federal government. Edo State House of Assembly gets new leadership as lawmakers accuse impeached Speaker and his deputy of abuse of office. And police in Edo and Rivers State attribute successes to cooperation of members of the public. We begin with education. The Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, has begun an indefinite nationwide strike. The university lecturers made the announcement after a meeting this morning in the nation's capital, Abuja. The union is demanding the implementation of the outstanding 2009 agreement and the Memorandum of Understanding signed in 2013 with the federal government. Now, these are a list of some of the demands. They include the payment of fractions and non-payment of salaries, non-release of earned academic allowances, non-implementation of the provisions of the 2014 Pension Reform Act with respect to retired professors and their salaries, removal of university staff schools from funding by the federal government, funds for the revitalization of public universities, as well as some other issues. The ASUU president, Mr. Abiodun Ogunyemi, explains that members have exhausted all avenues to get government to fully implement their demands.
Our members across the country were getting increasingly frustrated, distracted, and disenchanted. It became evident that their patience had been taxed beyond reasonable limits, and government's insensitivity imposed severe burden on the leadership of ASUU. Consequently, based on a nationwide consultation with our members, an emergency meeting of the National Executive Council of ASUU rose on Saturday, 12th August 2017, with a resolution to embark on an indefinite strike action starting from Sunday, 13th August 2017. The nationwide action is total and comprehensive. During the strike, there shall be no teaching, no examination, and no attendance of statutory meetings of any kind in any of our branches.
To take a closer look at these issues raised by ASUU, I'm being joined by a lecturer from the Lagos Business School, Dr. Bongo Adi. You're welcome to News Across Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
Now, Dr. Adi, what can you make of the demands by ASUU? In very recent times, I explored the problems with our educational system, the educational sector in Nigeria, in my column, the Business Day newspapers, which I called Bongonomics. And then I said our education, the ticking time bomb. And those are some of the issues I broached on the article that I wrote. I think the problem with ASUU, I can understand their frustration with the poor funding and the inability of the federal government to keep up to contracts and agreements. But at the same time, I don't think that the major problem with Nigerian education is funding. Funding is a big problem, no doubt about that. But in terms of the poor quality and the incompetence and the ineptitude that we've started to experience in our educational system, to the point where Nigerian products, the products of our universities, rank very low, below those from Kenya and other African countries, if you go with the recent World Economic Forum publication. Okay, that problem is not solely due to funding, but I think there are some insidious dimensions to that within universities. But I can understand them. In other places in the world, we've seen a gradual privatization of education or corporatization of education. I know when this took place in Japan some years, in about 2000 and 2001, when the government stopped to totally fund national universities. and actually gave them the permission to begin to, to be self-sufficient in funding, in seeking for funds to execute the activity. So I think that is what is needed in the Nigerian educational system, because if we compare what is happening with our national universities, the public universities and the private universities, you'll agree with me that yes, because of externality issues, because if education is privatized, then it will be underproduced. And that is the reason for the subsidization of education by government, and that is economic theory. But at the same time, when you look at it, the private system, the private sector seems to be better in terms of efficiency in the educational system than the public education. And I think that is a big problem, and it seems that is what ASUU hasn't quite looked at. They are behaving like, like an over-pampered child, always asking government for funds, but nobody asks for internally generated revenues. What happens to internally generated revenues in the university system?
Well, Dr. Adi, I need to come in here. You talked about the private system being better, but that will mean that not everyone can afford to go to a private university. It means paying more.
Please come again. I couldn't hear you.
Not everyone can afford to go to a private university. You said the private institutions are much better than the public ones, but you realize that people will have to pay more to attend those universities.
Of course, that is another thing, because let's go back to the whole argument about privatization, why privatization is preferred, because state-owned enterprises have been known to, not to be so efficient, and that is the reason, the rationale for privatization of so many or corporatization of state-owned enterprises that we've witnessed all over the world. Okay? Nothing has changed, and we can apply that to the educational system as well. Education cannot be free, of course. I understand, I agree with everybody that the government hasn't quite played its expected role in the educational system. For instance, what we need is a total reform of the educational system. I don't think that everybody needs to go to the university. What has happened to our vocational education? So this reform is imperative in the educational sector. We need to revamp the vocational system of education. Some people need to have skills. Not everybody needs a liberal education as the university provides. And if that is allowed to happen, then it is possible for university to charge according to what they provide. Right now, there is no competitiveness. There's no competition in the educational system.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bongo Adi, a lecturer from the Lagos Business School. Meanwhile, Channels Television's correspondents across the country have been monitoring the level of compliance to that directive given by ASUU. Many of them report that the compliance level is low, as the institutions are still waiting for what they say is a final order from ASUU. Now let's take updates from Osun, Kano and Imo states.
At the National University in Osun State, it's obvious that the students are still on campus, and the lecturers actually are not complying with the ASUU Strike as directed by the national body. The reason being that the ASUU chairman, Dr. Niyi Sumono, when I spoke with him, said the students that it's been a while, that it's because of the crisis, the leadership crisis has been on in the school, relating to that of the Vice Chancellor, that the students have had to stay back for a while and lectures have not been on. So the examination is actually on at this time, and because of this, the ASUU chairman said they are not going to join the strike until after the examinations are over.
With my visits to the Federal University of Technology, Owerri, that total compliance to the ASUU strike, it's 100%. I met with the chairman of ASUU in Federal University of Technology, Owerri, Ike Nwachuku, and he says everybody, all the lecturers, all the ASUU members, they are complying to the directives of the national board to go on strike.
Well, like any other university across the country, although we have not received any official notification from the ASUU here in Bayero University, Kano, was compliant to the strike action. But I have seen the gates of the old campus of the university shut down.
When news across Nigeria returns, the Edo State House of Assembly gets a new speaker. We'll give you details in a moment. Join us again.